Hey, what is up guys? MKBHD here, and this is it. This is the Google Pixel XL. In the flesh, we finally have it here. By the time you watch this video, I will have been using this phone for about half a week or so about 4 days. So that's not quite enough time for me to give my full review of this phone, but it is enough time for me to get to know this phone a lot better and learn a bunch of new things about it. And a lot of these things have to do with Android and the software it's running. So this is the first phone running Android 7.1 out of the box, so not even 7.0. So usually a 0.1 update is a pretty sizable update, but a lot of these things you're going to notice are still little tweak updates from Android 7.0. Even so, nevertheless, these are 5 of my favorite observations from my couple of days so far using the Pixel. So number 1 is the new navigation bar at the bottom of the screen. Design is a little bit different. You can see the buttons are filled in now, and it's grown on me a little bit. The other thing is not all phones have software buttons, so that's something you have to get used to. I've switched phones a lot between on-screen and off-screen buttons, so I came from the OnePlus 3. So the big old shit on this phone, I found myself like tapping in that empty space to go back or go multitask. That doesn't do anything. There's nothing down there. It's just the software buttons. But yeah, like I said, I've gotten used to the new look, and I'm actually using the Assistant a bit more than I use now on tap. You can see there's this little animation now for pressing home, and of course the long press home will get you to the new Assistant. So number 2, let's talk about that, the Assistant. So on Pixel phones, it's baked into the OS. So like you saw, a long press of home will open it. And as far as I know, this is only on Pixel phones. So on other Android phones, you can get to the Assistant with the Allo app or something like that. But the way it works here is pretty clean and familiar. You have the long press and it starts listening. And you can also say, OK Google from anywhere on any screen, or even when the phone is off, to get it to start listening to you and take a command or a question. If there's stuff on my screen, I can hold home and then actually swipe up to get potentially useful information based on what it's reading on my screen, so that's still useful from now on tap. So number 3 is the completely finished Pixel launcher. So a bunch of you might have been like me and were using the APK of the Pixel launcher before on some other phones, but now this is the final version, and there's also actually still some new things. For those who weren't using it, number 1 thing you'll notice is the circular icons. Yes, there are circles everywhere. It's not entirely consistent. Like, you still have the Allo icon is not a circle, for example. The Dropbox icon is not a circle. But the one thing you can say is that they're now all the same size. So you couldn't say that before. But that minor adjustment actually makes a big difference to feeling clean. And this launcher, you now swipe up to get into your app drawer instead of pressing a button. I actually have grown to really like that. So it gives you a way bigger touch target to swipe up from instead of having to hit a button in the middle of the phone. It's actually easier for your reach. And then you can just swipe anywhere from the dock area, so that gives me an extra slot in my dock for another favorite app. Also, at the top of the launcher is a clickable weather forecast now that actually goes to your weather. And in the launcher settings, you actually also now have something called app suggestions, which I turned off, but it'll literally show you in your app drawer an app that you don't have installed just because it thinks you might want to have it. So I probably would turn that off. All right, so number 4 might look familiar to people who have used a certain other smartphone recently, and that is the ability to long press any icons on your home screen or in your app drawer to get functions inside of your apps. So the Twitter app, for example, you could long press the icon and it will give you a shortcut to go right to your DMs or right to composing a new tweet. This reminds you of 3D Touch on the iPhone. So while Apple sort of developed this really technically impressive proprietary display technology for sensing pressure, Google just built it into a long press. So yeah, a lot of Google first-party apps now have this functionality freshly baked in because they were expecting it. But yeah, more and more third-party apps will soon start to have this as well. So I'm ready for that. I'm assuming the rollout will look a lot like the way it did with 3D Touch on iOS. Not sure how much I'll use it because, again, I mean, if you're an iPhone user, honestly, how much do you use 3D Touch? Some more than others. Maybe you do more than me, but it's a cool feature. I just think it's cool that they figured that out and they built it right into the phone. And then there's number 5, last but not least, something pretty small called Gestures or Moves. So if you go into the settings, you'll see a section just called Moves, and it's for some new gestures. 3 main new things. 1 is you can switch between the front and back cameras in the camera app with a double twist. So it's kind of similar to what you did in the Motorola camera app back in the day to open the camera. Number 2 is to double tap the power button to open the camera. This isn't new. We've seen this before in other Nexuses, but again, it allows you to not have a camera shortcut on your phone. You can just double tap the power button. And the third and final thing is you can use the fingerprint reader on the back to swipe up and down to pull down the notification tray from anywhere and also pull it back up. So that's pretty cool. I turned that on. I definitely do have some accidental swipes when I'm just holding the phone and handling the phone, but for the most part, if I made an effort to think about it, it actually works as a shortcut to just swipe down and check the time and then swipe back up. And if I have a notification, I'll see it pretty quickly. So there you have it. It's a bunch of small refinement type stuff on Android 7.1 on this Pixel phone. Obviously, the full review is coming soon, so what I want you to do is let me know in the comment section right below that like button what you want to see in the full review. Obviously, the camera, that's a major one that I want to test. It's so far looking really promising, and I have good initial impressions, but that's something I want to test. Battery life, I have the XL. Again, so far so good, but stuff like that, let me know what you guys want to know about this phone, and that will surely be tested for the full review video. Either way, that's been it. Thank you for watching. I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Peace.